Hello, 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 and a massive hello to everybody. So I hope everybody's having an awesome weekend. Everybody's had a great weekend wherever you may be, whatever you may be doing. This is 50 pips rocking and rolling, 25th of January, 2015. Again, not making any trade calls or recommendations because you and only you're responsible for the trades you may decide to take. And the fact you're listening to this means you've read, you understand, you accept all the disclosures, disclaimers on the site, understanding that we're just performing some technical analysis in a learning context for educational purposes only. So what up, what up, what up, what up, what up? So let's get going. So this should be an interesting week ahead. So main focus on the Sunday Open are going to be this Greek election. So that's pretty much as that's settling. A lot of people trying to see what's happening, but pretty much no surprise with the outcome there. The other thing to keep in mind is that we do have IFO, German IFO coming on Monday. Then on Tuesday, we do have some interesting Aussie and UK data. You got that preliminary GDP out of the UK, and we got a lot of US data. I mean, the other focus apart from the Greek elections is going to be the FOMC in the middle of the week. But don't forget that 1 hour after the FOMC, we've also going to have a rate decision out of the RBNZ. So that's clearly going to be very, very interesting. We still have German CPI on Thursday. We got unemployment claims out of the US. We got PPI out of Australia. On Friday, CPI out of Europe. Advanced GDP out of the US on Friday. So clearly it's going to be a very interesting week as the market is digesting, the Draghi, so the QE news, as the market's going to have to digest the Greek elections, and as this other round of data is coming on with the added kicker of FOMC and the rate decision out of the RBNZ. So let's look at some charts. What's going on? Well, first things first, in terms of the equity side on the ES, we've been stuck inside this range. Very nice little trading, and we kept on saying that basically there's not a lot. We felt there wasn't an awful lot of edge inside the range, that the edge was playing the extremes, even though these whole zones 20, 20, 25, 20, 50 being pivotal levels for action. So again, as we came into here, we're tactically looking for opportunities to short on failures to hold above 2075. Beautiful little move all the way back into the low end of the range. We discussed this 200 confluence 200 and these lows, bam, held, and now trying to make its way back to the upside of the range. Right now, you could easily make a call for a press higher or some kind of a complex top building here. So I think a lot is also going to have to depend on what's going on with the FOMC, right? I think globally speaking, if you just look at this, there's no change in outlook. I think the edge is really looking at the extremes here, right? So going into the week, any failure to hold above 2075s, I think is going to be interesting shorting opportunity. And again, any moves here to look to try to play these as bull bear lines intraday, right? So going into the day, hold below 2050s, 2025 attracts, hold above 2050s, 2075 attract. Daily open below the 2025s, hold below 2000s attract. Just look at these as pivotal levels, but it's a lot of choppy action. And again, I think we could easily make a case for some kind of a complex top forming, but also it looks like if we fail, we may have to fail from a higher level. So again, very tricky to say as long as we stay inside this range. But I think it's, the chart's been giving us ample opportunities to trade, ample opportunities to engage. So no need to change anything, sticking to what we've got on this. What's going on gold? So gold, again, our hypothesis was, we said that when we were hovering around this 1200 mark, we could easily make a case for this to break lower or break higher with equal conviction. However, our feeling was that we needed to go test the 1250s, and we're looking at this to continue the higher option. So that's what we got. We broke above here, holding above this 200 moving average, previous resistance now acting as support. Now we're witnessing what we like to call a range shift, right? So what it was is the range here was 1150s, 1200s, 1250s. Now that we're trading, we hit our 1300 target. As far as we're concerned, this is new mid-range. So low is 2050s, mid 1300, high 3015. So here we're looking for this 1300 level to give us idea for direction. Hold above, we're looking for 1350s, hold below 1250s, calling right here. This is the bull bear line going into the week. Again, we still favor more upside rather than downside. And very similar to what has been happening on silver. Again, we we discussed that basically we called this the final fake out, and we're looking for this to reverse all the way back to 18s. Now 18s is going to be, you know, similar to that 1300 on gold, you know, pivotal level. Hold above, look for those 2049s, you know, 2050s to call. Daily closes below the 18 mark, and we could see some kind of correction back into the 16. But again, the way this is looking for us, especially hold above 18, we're looking at this as those 2050s attract, okay? So I just need to get a sip of something to drink. So that's pretty much what we're doing. And then to finish off the commodities, what we got, where's our crude? If 50 can find it, crude. Again, very, very heavy. What we're saying is that it's looking for direction and it's trying to base. We consider the basing process on crude to, again, to be a process and to not just be a V bottom or something like that. So here we said as long as it's trying to base inside this zone, 4750s pivotal for action, right? So you see here, all the moves back into the 4075s got sold, and now it's pressing towards those 45s. So as long as it stays inside this zone, we consider it a range trade to the upside. No big surprise. We've discussed this above. We've got 55s and 40s. So should we get daily closes below the 45, we would assume resumption of the bearish Momo, and we'd say 40s attract. If we actually close above the 50s on a daily close, we expect more profit taking to come in those 55s to attract. But as long as we stay inside this zone, much to do about nothing. It's still in a range and it's still chopping around in this range, okay? So what else do we got? On the currency side, we got a couple of interesting things happening across the board. A lot of people ask me about Euro GBP. I mean, Euro GBP is coming, and everything's coming into very, very interesting supports or resistances here. This is a monthly. This was basically, we've been uber bearish on this for ages. You know, we had the initial here that move from highs into these initial lows that into these lows. 50 back got sold. Bam, into this previous low, retraced up. Back into the next 50 back, highs to the new lows, 50 back, keeps on getting sold off, and our target for this move is basically 72 70s, or in any case we call it, you know, not gonna be too greedy with the last pips. We call this 200 moving average on the monthly. So this is pretty much at target. So right here we'll have to see how this behaves, but keep in mind that we're coming into very, very strong support coming in, but this is a completion or a very nice move short from 87.70. So this is really a decent move. So I'd be looking for this maybe to try and get the last leg of this, and then maybe it would be healthy to see some kind of profit taking. So that was a very, very nice trade, very, very nice move. Then what else have we got? So looking at the euro, this was the range we posted pre the ECB press conference and that QE announcement, right? A lot of people are saying, are you crazy? That range is huge. Well, maybe not, right? So what we were saying is, as we were hovering around those 16s, right? We're right in the middle of this range. We're hovering about 1650s. What we said is here, if we get but, you know, sell the rumor, buy the fact, you know, we'd expect this to pop up all the way back into the 121 mark. Selling, this could easily accelerate to the 112s, right? So that's pretty much what we got, smack down all the way back down into those 112s. So right here, this is a massive level. So keep an eye on how we close, how we open on Sunday night, especially on the Greek vote and all the wheeling and dealing that's going on here. Clearly, I think what I'd be focused on is that there is going to be some kind of wheeling and dealing, and the market will have to digest the news as it opens in the overnight session. What I would say, I would look at it from the open all the way through to basically, you know, something like that. I would say the IFO release, right, in early Monday trade. So what I would say is, as long as we hold below those 112.10s, as long as we hold below this 61.8% retracement of that move, then this is probably going to continue to stay very, very heavy, and you'll see those next targets, you know, 110s. You've got these base coming in here, you know, 107s maybe. Basically, it's going to trade pressure on. If we trade past that IFO back above the 112s, then I wouldn't be surprised to start to see some kind of profit taking coming in and possibly starting to move towards the 116. Maybe even 121s post that FOMC, depending what happens out of the FOMC. But in terms of tighter range, what I would say, you've got these 107s, 108s to the downside. If we hold below after that IFO, if not to the upside, we've got that breakdown zone, which is in the mid 116s. That's what I would be looking at, right? In terms of cable, a lot of people were talking, email me and writing, what about the 150? What do you think? Do you think it's all about that 150 if we close above or below? I think the 150 is not too important to me. It's the beginning of the, we had this chart up on the weekly, right? Basically, and our assumption was that in that first week of August, when we got that bounce off that initial support, because we talked about all these supports on the monthly, our assumption was that we'd put in a low, short-term low 2 weeks ago, and that we're going to bounce up back into the 155s. Now, obviously, with the QE and everything, that's kind of put a little dent in it, and we're back below. But it's still a very, very strong support zone. So again, I wouldn't look for this to accelerate wildly. If you remember, guys who've been listening to these for a while, we've always talked about heavy below that. The 148 is the next base support kind of area. But I mean, so again, I think the focus for me on GPB is that there is a lot of structural support, and a difference from Euro, right? Where Euro, you've got a lot less structural support to the downside. On cable, you've got a lot of structural support. Also, keep in mind that if Euro keeps on getting whacked hard, all the negative flows on Euro GPB should be relatively supportive to cable. So we'll have to wait and see. But basically, to answer that question, I got a lot of those questions about the 150. I think that 148 is a lot more important, especially in terms of psychological level, but also in terms of support zone on the chart. So as far as I'm concerned, we're entering a really important level. But right here, if you're talking about the 200, the 200 to the downside could come quick, but I think there's a lot more of quick to the upside than the downside. I think there's more upside risk than downside risk as we go into this strong support here on cable. So that's our view on cable. What else we got? So we talked about Kiwi. Kiwi's holding very, very heavy. I mean, more supported than the other pairs, and less aggressive than the moves we've seen on CAD, on Aussie maybe. And here, what I would be watching going into the week is how we trade around this 100, right? This is a monthly, so the 100 and the 200, and call it pretty much, if you want, 175 level, 175.50s. Sorry, not 170, 0.75, 75.50s. So look at that going into the week, early in the week, right? So if we can get back above, then I wouldn't be surprised to see some kind of a relief rally, maybe some shorts taking profit. As long as we hold below, then this could stay very heavy. Again, keep in mind there are a lot of support zones here, and we've also got that RBNZ rate decision on Tuesday, right? So there could be a lot of wheeling and dealing around this pair. So just be cautious. Be cautious on this. What else have we got then? CAD, we're pressing aggressively into this 200 on the monthly. There's not enough. Now you've got the 100. All of a sudden is very nice support here, right? Very nice support. And there's not an awful lot all the way back up into these other highs. But the big question is, how are we going to react into the beginning of the week? If you look at this on the 4 hour or even on the 1 hour, it looks like it's starting to have some trouble. So you see those sellers here coming back after looks like the 125 is being protected. Got sellers coming in. It's still holding relatively heavy. So I would watch those highs, right? As long as those highs are defended, at least I wouldn't be surprised to see this move quickly back into the bottom end of this range. But keep in mind that this whole zone is going to be very, very choppy as the market digests, the rate cut and, what's going on here. But again, the question is, even though there's not a lot to the upside, would you really want to be aggressively buying these highs? Not so sure. Let's see how the week goes on. And again, I think the markets will have to digest the overnight news on Sunday, and there may be a lot of wheeling and dealing. There's going to be a lot of reports, a lot of people talking their book, all the parties making comments. So keep in mind, the the wires can be very choppy and we could see a lot of tape bombs. And as sorry, participants may be weary or unwilling to put on big bets as there's all this wheeling and dealing, we might get a bit less liquidity. So it could also mean that there's a lot more choppy action with all these tape bombs hitting the wires, right? So that's something to keep an eye out for. By the way, yeah, so on that Aussie, keep in mind, this is a chart we've been looking at for a long time. So this is basically the same kind of retracement of that same move we have on Euro, except Euro we're holding heavy at that 61.8. Here on Aussie, we've come back all the way into this 50 back of the move, right, which is pretty much off that the November 2000s, right, and it's come right back into that zone. It's also confluence with this previous resistance that acted as support, right? So this is a very, very key level going into the week. So this is something I'd be really focused on. So keep an eye at this, 79.60s, 79.50s, this whole level, because basically what you've got to the downside is you've got you're inside this 50 back zone on the fib, which is likely going to be interesting support. On top of it, you've got the added confluence of this previous resistance acting as support, and you've got the added confluence of that 200 on the monthly. So as long as we stay supported above that 200, and if we move back above that 50, then we could see a nice little bounce. If we hold below that 200, especially from a daily close perspective, those are likely going to trade very, very heavy, and I'd be looking at 72s to the downside. So the range here I've got is pretty much 86, 79, 72s. That's what I would be looking at on Aussie here. But again, we'll have to let these settle, see how we open here in the Sunday Open. What else do we got? We got USD JPY. Not an awful lot going on here. It's still stuck. Just chopping around here. I think there's not an awful lot inside this range. So, that descending trend line and that base coming in around the 115.50s, this is likely going to be a ping pong zone. We'll see a lot of wheeling and sailing here. So maybe we'll just have to wait through the FOMC to see the next move. But I think this is a broader range, which is highlighted in blue. And then we've got those pivotal Momo lines where we've got the arrows on there. Okay. And, EJ, another very, very interesting level here if you look at it. So you see we've had very big moves. So we've moved back onto these monthlies. And again, here the monthly, the gray is always on all my charts. The gray is the 100 and the black is the 200. So you see what's happened here. We've come back into this support, very, very heavy. And basically it's trying to base, right? And this is a very, very big structural support. So keep an eye on this whole zone. If this lets go, this could get very, very heavy. But if this is going to get some kind of a bounce, this is most likely where we'd expect to see that bounce, okay? So I think that's pretty much a good roundup for the week. So again, I wish you guys a good week. Great rest of the weekend, wherever you may be, assuming your weekend isn't over yet, and maybe you might have a couple of hours left or a bit more hours left to go. I'll see you guys for London Open. Thanks for listening. Have an awesome one. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.